What is up, guys? And in this video I'm going to show you how you fix your skin tones, and if you have not watched part 1 yet, please watch that because that will help you fix the complicated skin tones and having white balance in your camera so you can avoid this situation altogether. But let's say, for example, what happens when you don't fix your white balance and now you have a complicated video that has shifting white balance because you put your camera on auto white balance. How many times did I say white balance? So what I have here is a clip, and as you can see, it starts very cool, and then suddenly my camera decides to make it very warm. And what I would do to fix this to start off with is I just drag this video into my timeline first. Make sure I have the color tab open, and the most simplest way of fixing this white balance is making sure you have the proper exposures to begin with, and just making sure I have a preset, which is a LUT, so I have it properly exposed. All I do is drag and drop. But even within this preset, it's actually not that bad. A little slight notice, as you can see within this color balance, it gets really warm here to really warm to really cool, but how I'm going to show you is what you need to do first is you go into your white balance system here in your color tabs, use your eyedropper, find some kind of tone, and Adobe Premiere will try its best to fix the white balance through color correcting. But it does not always do the best job possible for your video, so you have to pick a tone that is somewhat, I would say, closest to your skin tones. Like I said, find somewhere that's close. But if you're having no luck and Adobe is just making pretty much your footage way too warm or cool, what you want to do is you want to just manually do it. So what I would do is, if my skin tones were too warm, I would just kind of drag it so it's a little bit more cooler on your temperature, and I would adjust the tint. And here you can see the before and after just by fixing the white balance. But if you want to get really technical, the fastest way is just to fix that. But if you want to get really technical, you go into your Lumetri scopes, make sure you have your vector scopes open, not your HLS, but your YUV. And the technical textbook way of having a proper skin tone within your footage is to make sure that this line here is within your color tones, as this line, depending on your complexion, skin tones are usually within this area. As you can see, if I pull this farther away, now I am looking like a Smurf, and this line is starting to go more towards the blue. I just want to Control Z. So for the most part, if your skin tones usually are red, orange, yellow, they would fall within this line, and this is a good tool to go by. And how you can fix your skin tones, let's say if they're too over into the blues, is you can go into your curves, you can go down here, and you go into your hue versus hue. You want to find your skin tones, and then you can adjust accordingly. But this is also on the premise that your white balance is properly set. So go into your curves, your hue versus hue, and you can play around with making pretty much the hue or the midtones of your image either more on the red side or more on the green side, really depending on the color grade of how you like it. And honestly, there isn't a textbook way. If you want to do the quickest way, that I would do is avoid that altogether and just go into your simple white balance selector tool within a Lumetri color. You can use the eyedrop tool. You click on a neutral color and you just play around with the temperature. And if you want to get super technical into it and making sure you have the proper skin tones, all you do is you go into your vector scope, your YUV, and before that, you want to make sure your Lumetri waveform right here is making sure it's properly exposed. Then you go into your vector scope and making sure it falls into this general area without pushing into your yellows or your reds. You want to make sure there's an even split. And you would then need to go into your curves, and you would need to play around with your hue versus hue, saturation, and your luma. But it does get a little bit more complicated. But how, for me, with client work and my own YouTube videos, a simple eyedrop tool, fixing the temperature on that, applying adjustment layer, that usually does the trick for skin tones. And if you want to bump up your skin instead of getting more complicated, all I do is I just bump up the vibrance a bit instead of the saturation. And for the most part, it usually fixes the white balance in Adobe Premiere with your footage. And as you can see, before and after with proper exposure, even though, yes, there is a little bit of a white balance change here, if I properly expose it, it's not that noticeable unless you're looking for it. But for the most part, people can't really tell if it's suddenly the white balance changes unless you're the one editing the actual footage. But like I said, if you are actually trying to go for the skin tones, like I said, super simple. You just go into your vector scopes, take some time to tweak and actually learn and play around, and don't be afraid of actually going into your skin tones. You can make a mask and figure out exactly where that skin tone is and the color, and playing around with exactly how you change these colors. And you can also use these curves to change your color grading as well. And there's a lot of things that Adobe Premiere that you can do that will surprise you when it comes to the actual color grading. And there's lots of ways that you can do this, but that is how I fix color and skin tones. Like I said, super easy. You don't get too complicated into this, as you are not color correcting a 8K cinema footage. You're just making sure that your whites are whites, your blacks are blacks, and the image itself is not too cool and not too warm unless you're going for that specific look. And if you haven't watched part 1 on this, make sure you watch that. That will prevent you from running into these problems. You're watching Broke Vision Collective, where we all start with nothing, but you can always create something. Cheers, guys. And if you haven't yet, link in the description to get 2 months free off of Skillshare, where you can have access to all my online courses where I will show you how to edit in Adobe Premiere, yours truly, and overall help you be a better content creator. Cheers, guys.